Hello friends, this is Worm and it's Monday, which means it's time for another episode of Exotic Recrafting. This is a series where we talk about weak, underused, or straight up bad exotics in Destiny 2, talk about how we could potentially make them better. And today I want to talk about Two-Tailed Fox. But before we do that, I want to remind you I'll be live Tuesday and Thursday nights, starting at 9 p.m. Central. We talk about Destiny, we play Destiny, have fun, so come over and join those. With that plug out of the way, let's talk about Two-Tailed Fox, which is a vanilla Destiny 2 weapon. It's been in the game since the game first launched, and it took a while, but eventually got a catalyst. Unfortunately, I think that the weapon is it's underused. I don't see it very much in any sort of gameplay. The only time I personally have ever really used Two-Tailed Fox, aside from, playing with it to see what it needed to be changed on it, was whenever I was cheesing the Witness. So yeah. Let's talk about what it does first. It comes with the intrinsic perk Twin Tails. Shoots 2 rockets, 1 void and 1 solar, that can track onto the same target. And it has the unique perk Play with Your Prey. The void rocket suppresses enemy. The solar rocket causes damage over time. And of course, this weapon does have a catalyst. The catalyst just adds another rocket to the volley that deals arc damage and jolts targets. So it's a pretty neat rocket launcher. Basically, ADS, it has tracking built into it for free, and it will shoot 2 rockets, or if you have the catalyst, it will shoot 3 rockets, and each of those rockets will do kind of one of their specific elemental debuffs to a target. As per usual, we'll talk about this weapon talk about some changes for this weapon, starting off with some stat bumps. Then we'll talk about the catalyst substitutions or additions or changes. Then we'll talk about the intrinsic, the unique perks, and potentially a full rework idea that I have to round out the video. But of course, let's start with the stat bumps. To me, the biggest stat bump that this weapon probably needs is just an increase to its magazine size. We know that rockets that have more than one rocket in the tube, more than one rocket in the tube will perform better. Like, this is why Clown Cartridge and Envious Assassin Reconstruction are all such popular choices, because they get that magazine size up. This is an exotic rocket launcher. We could just bump it up to 2. And Bungie could do this by either just changing the catalyst or just changing the base weapon, however they want to go about doing it. But other than that, the stats really are pretty decent around the board. It's a rocket launcher. I don't think many people care about stats all that much anyways, but just increasing that magazine size to 2. So with that stat bump out of the way, let's talk about a catalyst perk changes or substitutions. And this is kind of going to be talking about the intrinsic and the unique perks as well. We're kind of going to weave all these together. But of course, the catalyst for this weapon does something really cool. It adds a 3rd rocket to the volley. Now, in terms of unique catalyst ideas, this definitely takes the cake. Bungie could have added on, a simple thing, like Ambitious Assassin or something like that. Just very easy and simple, but no, they went out of the way and they made a unique catalyst for this, which I really like, and that's the one that adds a 3rd rocket. However, I think that 3rd rocket should be built into the intrinsic frame or the intrinsic perk with the weapon anyways. Like, I think it's weird that you have a rocket launcher that fires 2 rockets until you get the catalyst, and then it shoots 3 rockets. Now it's just kind of odd. And so with that being said, I think that's a really nice addition you could see added to Two-Tailed Fox Catalyst is Loose Change. I mean, I literally could not think of a better perk to have on this weapon. Loose Change, of course, when you deal an elemental debuff to an enemy, this weapon will get faster reload. It gets some other stats too, but mainly just faster reload speed. With Two-Tailed Fox that does do that for just free, I think it just makes a lot of sense to have Loose Change on there. That could also potentially help in maybe DPS phases. Now you have a rocket launcher that's reloading substantially faster, and it's technically dealing more damage, which the rockets do, but we'll talk about the damage of the rockets here in just a second. But yeah, I think that Loose Change just makes the most sense to have as a perk addition to the catalyst. Now, another idea that I had that went absolutely crazy is giving it Repulsor Brace, Heal Clip, and Eddy Current. These are the 3 player buffs associated with each of the 3 light-based energy types. And it would just be really cool if you got those for free. Now, on one hand, that might be a bit powerful, might even be overpowered, some say. Repulsor Brace plus Heal Clip plus Eddy Current could really crack this weapon out of its mind. But the counter argument I have to that, it's a heavy weapon, it is a rocket launcher. Okay, so rocket launchers are typically used for damage, and of course with each of these perks you have to, well, except Eddy Current, but with Repulsor Brace and Heal Clip, you have to get a kill and then do something else in Heal Clip's instance. Get a kill, then reload in order to activate it. So I think that if you added all three of those to this weapon, it wouldn't be too broken. It wouldn't be like a primary or a special ammo weapon with these three perks on it, but I'm not sure the limitations of adding a bunch of different, subclass verbs to one specific weapon. So that was just a cool idea that I had. But now let's talk about the actual intrinsic trait, which is Twin Tails. Like I said, I feel like the current catalyst should be built into this. So the rocket at base should be able to just fire 3 rockets, 1 solar, 1 void, and 1 arc, and they can all track onto the same target. You might as well, you might as well do that. It just makes sense. Now the other thing that I had the idea of that I'm really not sure about, because I think that it might tread on the toes of another weapon, is giving this weapon the ability to track multiple different targets. Obviously, Eyes of Tomorrow is an exotic rocket launcher that exists in game currently, and it has the ability to lock onto, I think, 4 different targets or something like that, or 8 different targets, something like that. And I wouldn't want Two-Tailed Fox to tread too much on the territory of Eyes of Tomorrow. And granted, Eyes of Tomorrow does something a little bit different. Eyes of Tomorrow can potentially have infinite ammo, which I think is a really neat ability to have. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Like, do you think that having the ability to track multiple targets with Two-Tailed Fox would be a good idea, or perhaps not? But yeah, moving on though to the unique perk, of course, Play with Your Prey. It states the Void Rocket suppresses enemies and the Solar Rocket causes damage over time. Personally, the only change I would want to see to this is have that Void Rocket go from suppression to weaken. Like I said, suppression, yes, it can stagger unstoppable champions, but so can ignitions. And especially if Bungie bumped up that magazine to 2 rounds of the magazine, which I'm gonna come back to that here in just 1 second. But if they did that, it would make just more sense to have a weakening effect. Plus, suppression doesn't really do much. Suppression is currently like the least used void debuff on enemies. The only way you can get suppression is, I believe, with Two-Tailed Fox, with a suppressor grenade, and Ruinous Effigy. I think those are the only 3. There might be another way to get suppression, but suppression doesn't do a lot for us. So I think just changing this to weaken, plus, think about it, if you increase the magazine to 2 rounds in the magazine, that would turn this weapon into a beast, because now the first rocket applies the weaken, it applies those 60 scorch stacks, it also applies jolt to the target. Then the second rocket that can immediately follow up can now, first of all, hit harder because the enemy's weakened, but also it can add additional scorch stacks that can cause an ignition, and of course, the scorching effect will trigger more jolting, the jolt shock from the arc rocket. So I think that would be just a really cool idea. Now, I want to talk about full reworks here. The first one I have pretty simple, okay? Upgrade this weapon to be an absolute powerhouse. Like, this weapon is a rocket launcher that fires 3 huge rockets. It's a huge rocket launcher. I think it's probably one of the biggest rocket launchers in the game, longest and girthiest. You could argue that it's not the girthiest because Eyes of Tomorrow, but whatever. We're not going to argue that right now. So simple, grant all 3 rockets their standard rocket damage. If you don't know, Two-Tailed Fox technically does deal more damage than the standard rocket launcher, but it's only like 20% more damage than standard rocket launchers. I say change this thing to be an absolute menace to society and give all 3 rockets their maximum rocket damage, which I think rocket damage deals I don't know what the rocket damage is, but basically this rocket would fire 1 rocket that would do 3 times the damage of a standard legendary rocket launcher. That would be awesome. And then the counterbalance to that would be to reduce the reserve size, maybe down to a maximum of probably 7 rockets or something. Currently, you can get up to 11 rockets with reserve mods, but I think that 11 rockets with the ability to do triple damage is just a bit too much. But that's the first idea for a full rework. Now, the second idea that I had for a full rework would actually change this weapon into more of an ad clear style weapon, similar again to Eyes of Tomorrow. And I hate talking about this because I don't want this weapon to be just Eyes of Tomorrow, but better. Because Eyes of Tomorrow does its own unique thing. This weapon does its own unique thing, arguably worse than Eyes of Tomorrow. But the idea I had is when you kill debuffed targets, so any suppressed or weakened targets or jolted targets, scorched targets, any debuffed targets, you will fill a meter on the side of the screen. When that meter is full, the weapon will then become overcharged. While the weapon is overcharged, it will automatically reload the weapon after every shot from thin air, so infinite ammo. And it has a duration of like, I don't know, 5-7 seconds, somewhere in there. So this weapon could potentially have infinite ammo, but you have to fire rockets to build up that meter and that charge time. This could be really neat because you have a situation where you could use this rocket as like ad clear in a raid situation. Then when it comes time to deal damage, you switch it over and then you just fire like 5 rockets without having to reload, and those rockets deal a lot of damage. Would it be too busted? I don't know. Maybe, probably, but still, it would be a really fun idea. I am still on the fence about this, though, because of the fact that it would step on Eyes of Tomorrow's toes. And like I said, I don't want to make exotics just all the exact same. So yeah, that's basically it for Two-Tailed Fox, though. Those are my ideas. Tell me what you think about Two-Tailed Fox. Do you like it in its current state? Personally, I don't think it's a bad weapon. I don't think that I think it's weaker than other options in its current state. And I think with any number of these changes, even just increasing the magazine size to 2, or the tube size, whatever you want to call it, to 2 would tremendously help this weapon. But like I said, let me know what you think. Of course, if you liked today's video, do me a favor, drop a like, helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, conversations, debates, discussions, all that good stuff. And do me one more favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.